Hey everyone, welcome back. 2024 Genesis Invitational here at Betts Golf Betting Preview. Andy, what's going on, bud?
This one gets in my head a little because I'm always like, what? Isn't this in the we call it Riviera so much. I always lack the brain power to remember there's two Genesis because you have the Scottish
Sure,
Open as a Genesis sponsor. Also, not a car I see that much. And
No,
funny
nice,
enough,
though.
it is
nice.
it is the car that Tiger was injured in. And then he's just gonna come back here and be like, I love Genesis. I don't know. Kind of weird, but yes, I feel bad. Just off the top, we'll do a little recap last week. I didn't watch much live because I was so busy with football stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if they thought that through, but between the Waste Management and like prepping for the Super Bowl, I took in almost no live. The course looked nice. I think they found a nice spot. I might have it a different weekend if I were them, but I'd go back and play the Las Vegas Country Club if I were them. Obviously, the weather was shit, and the Waste Management didn't nail the timing like they usually do. Where hey, it's 2 hours before the game, the final groups are cozying into 16, and we have some drama. Things finish up. You got time to go, stir the crock pots and have the big game. So it sucked that it overlapped. It was weird. There was a while there where I thought Charlie Hoffman was going to win, which I guess kudos to him for doing it up for his sponsors. So he's a Waste Management guy. Yeah. And I mean, he's had some very bad golf played over the past few years. And he just kicked it into high gear, played really well for the Waste Management folks. And, in the long run, we have a guy who is just nuts in playoffs, I guess, in Nick Taylor, which, I mean, that's 2 now where it's balls of steel. I was in my head, I'm like, man, we got to get this guy on a Ryder Cup team just for that. And then I realized, like, oh, that's not how that works. He's Canadian.
President's Cup.
President's Cup works, but you got to be. I wonder if they do it like you do in soccer, where it's like, hey, this guy has. They do that all the time for the World Cup. Like, this guy is born in this country, but he lives in this country, and he can just choose wherever he wants to play. Doesn't work as much for the Ryder Cup. But yeah, congrats to Nick. That was great. The putting was amazing at the end. Scotty missing this and that, and honestly, like, it's another one of those things where he didn't win the tournament, but in the long run, it kind of goes to show how good he is, because he had some flubs. He putted. I mean, what was that? Probably a 20-footer
into the bunker.
Went into the bunker. Yeah. Like, I mean, he had some bad luck, and it's still like he's just still at the top of the leaderboard. Even when he kind of has off days, he's still just right there. So Scotty in form at a course where you need some form, or you need some experience, where you need to be a guy who has every shot in the bag and every club available to him. Wouldn't surprise me if we finally got somebody this week that wasn't 100-1 or better.
I know. I went to typically in the article that I write on the site, I typically just hone in on the outright plays. I started my article last week with a Scotty top 10 bet, and like felt so comfortable laying minus 134 without taking the worst number, not taking MGM's ties in full, because I'm just like, there's no scenario where he just doesn't contend. It just was, again, getting to 5-1 or whatever, 550 pre-tournament from an outright standpoint was hard. I had a freebie, so I had a little bit of access to try to, sweat that on Sunday before. But yeah, we need just some even golf between Pebble, between, just every single round had some sort of delay situation last week, obviously, with some guys having to play, essentially 27 holes on Sunday, obviously made it tough. They didn't even reshuffle the groups after the third round finish. So that made it very difficult and uneven too. So not an ideal scenario for them. Obviously, Waste Management went off the rails in some other ways too last week, more than others.
I mean, it was the usual. So I'm never. It's one of those things where when you're like 18, I'm going to be a cool parent, and then you have kids, and you're like, oh shit, I have to be a hard ass. I wonder at what point, because I'm almost 40, at what point I will flip over and turn into Billy Horschel and Zach Johnson and be like, those kids shouldn't be having fun. Because I think if it were, oh, this is a pandemic. Like it's endemic. It's happening in every course now. They've lost golf. Like it's once a year during Super Bowl weekend at a fun course in, and you've seen the guy pissing himself. He had an Arizona Wildcat shirt on. Like that checks out. Like it's Arizona, guys. This is going to happen. So I'm fine with it. You still, there's lines you can't cross. Like you can't be, really abusing these players, but it'd be interesting to hear if some stories come out eventually and like, oh, he was like dropping slurs and shit in his back. Who knows what set those guys off. But Zach Johnson, I'm hoping it was people shitting on him for being a bad captain, because he was.
Probably was. I'm sure he heard it at some point. It was either that what set him off, or he had been kind of quietly mounting over the couple days or whatnot. So it was definitely uneven, obviously, for them, a nightmare scenario where in the majority of the world, and even the golf hardos, unless you were dealing with multiple TVs or monitors or whatever, are just not watching the end of your tournament, and it's in a playoff, and one of the best players in the world is somewhat in the mix down the stretch, and like you can't contend with the beast that is the Super Bowl. Again, like I turned it off.
There's more people watching the top Super Bowl commercials lead up show than there were golf.
Puppy Bowl.
It's hard
whatever.
It's hard to compete with.
Yeah. So golf needs a win this week.
Still a fun tournament. Yeah, we just need, like you said, we need a tournament without shitty rain, without stupid delays. We have a smaller field. That helps. Like it is the signature field, so it's going to be, 70, 80 guys. That might help if they have to move things around a little. I just, no one can control the weather. We're never going to play golf indoors. Actually, they are. There are like indoor simulator leagues. That's a lot of fun, but, it's going to happen. But at the same time, I selfishly just want a normal tournament where all of the players play round one on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it just goes. So hopefully the weather's fine. I'm heading out to California this weekend, not for this tournament. It doesn't look fine. It looks like we are in for some rain, so I'll be drinking indoors. But here's hoping. You want to talk about Riv a little?
Yeah, so this is a scenario. It was kind of what we wanted a couple of weeks ago when we had Pebble, right? We have like this iconic golf course, beautiful, challenging track in a window without football. And now we're like turning the page. Football is over, so we're done competing with football and all. But we get Tiger back as well. This guy, he's there. So that is another thing too. Like, just golf needs a win. Let's get it done in a signature field event, in a Tiger Invitational. No one questions Tiger giving himself an invite to his tournament. He's any thoughts on the Sunday red? People are, like, we got the new Tiger logo stuff.
It's fine. Like, it's fine.
Who cares?
It's like, it's the same thing we do. I had this opinion.
I care, but it's
during the Super Bowl, I had this opinion where I seen 3 different chats complain about the score bug.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we do this every time there's a new score bug. Like, oh, I like the old one better. Like, you've never not liked the old one better. We do this every time. It's fine. It's new. It's different. We'll get used to it, and it'll just be a thing. Like, what fucking sense does the word Adidas make? Like, if a new brand like that came out, or Nike now, I'd be like, what the fuck does that word even mean? It's just once it becomes ingrained in the culture, and media runs with it, and obviously it's Tiger's brand, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, I like it. But anyway, Big Cat's back. Iconic Riviera CC, again, a fantastic track, and hopefully things play out well as we want to see. Last California event for the season. We're in Mexico next week, and then we start to move around a little bit. We get into the Florida swing and all those different things. So as Andy mentioned, signature events. This is one of the few that wanted to hold on to the cut. The cut line also has the old school like Augusta
within 10 shots.
Within 10 shot line. So like we have technically about 70 guys that qualify here, and I think that's what the field is at. 50 in ties, 10 within, with players within 10 strokes. So like, you might not have a cut, or it's going to take some pretty bad golf or someone maybe to really separate on Thursday and Friday to kind of stretch that 10-stroke thing and take that off the table. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. But again, there is a cut, which is not like Pebble. We had a no cut event, so that does matter a little bit.
I saved a tweet from, I want to give the guy credit, Josh Culp. I think he does content for a few different places, but he went and looked at this with the how would this have played out at other Genesis Opens. So it's top 50 plus 10 shots to the lead, and back in 2020, 68 people would have made the cut. There's a few, like last year would have been 57, the year before 51, 55, but there is a scenario where like almost like 3 guys missed the cut.
Yeah.
So
that's gonna be tough. That'd be a tough trunk slam if you're just one of 3 guys.
Yeah, you're just like there's like 2 guys that are leaving. That would feel pretty bad, but
that would tough, especially in a signature event with all the cash, all that big purse here. So
yeah, it's likely going to be not too weird, but there is a chance that it's like 5 guys go home, 60 some stay. So it'll depend on the scoring distribution, and it's probably going to be soft. It's going to be that Kikuya that grabs you a little, and I don't know. It'll kind of come down to how everyone putts, I suppose.
Yep, that's a big piece that you mentioned too. Like, so we are unique in terms of some of the layout stuff here. This is other than Torrey, where we just at a couple weeks ago. These are the only places on tour that have that Kikuya rough with the POA mix on the or POA greens. So that combination of the 2 things, so not a POA mix green, but the combination of those 2. So I do think that there is some crossover in terms of maybe looking at some, again, another long course driver heavy. Driver heavy is kind of continued here. This is a place where finding the fairways is very difficult. So we've had these over the years where distance is so prevalent on tour, where it's like, hey, look, everyone's missing the fairways. Why am I trying to get cute? And why not just attack, get down as close as I can, get myself the shortest wedge in hand that I possibly can, and get this ball as close to the hole or close to the right tier of the green. Because it will also have the strange dichotomy here. Ron points out in his preview on the site as well. We have really, really big greens. That's typically we would expect a pretty high greens and reg rate. We do not get that here. We have one of the worst greens and regulation rates on tour, especially considering the size of the greens. 56.7% is pretty low, pretty much lower than tour average. So I think that that's an interesting thing here too. So scrambling comes in, the shot shape in terms of like, it's not just a, hey, you can play your power fade. You got to be able to mix around. There's some corollary in terms of, leaderboards in the past at Augusta, because that's definitely prevalent at Augusta. Obviously some of the, agronomy stuff is not the same, but in terms of like shot shaping and, obviously the penalty off the tee at Augusta is not the same too, but I think there are some crossover in terms of that as well.
Yeah, you're not going to find penalty strokes. It's funny you're talking about.
Yeah, no water
with the rough. There's no water. There are the barrancas, which is not where you want to be. That it runs through the whole course. I think it's 8 or 9 holes. That is part of like the shape of the hole, and you might end up down in this weird gully.
Love a good barranca.
Very penal bunkers here. If you end up in some of those, they're pretty deep. Yeah. So sand saves around the green, scrambling, that stuff is going to be really important. And like you mentioned, I think there's something to it for some of these guys who know they have the big stick in the bag. Say, I am a long driver of the ball. I understand that. I understand how hard it is to hit the greens, like you said, or hit these fairways. Might as well just piss missile it, get it down there, and find my way out of this rough if that's the case. And the biggest problem with this rough is, it can grab onto the ball, grab onto the club. It's a sticky, grabby Kikuya, what have you. Like, who's going to be best out of those. And granted, you're going to get weird ball flight sometimes, and you're going to get weird spin. That's just life. But the guys with the club head speed that can drive the piss missiles are going to be probably a little better out of that anyway. So I don't hate to looking at driving distance, or, using that as a bit of a, one of the metrics you want to look at this week. Who is longer off the tee? Who has that high club head speed? Who can just knock it down there and fight their way out of the greens? And, there's a lot of top golfers here. So it's going to be tough to differentiate between some of these guys, because it seems like a lot of the guys who are at the top of the betting board have those kind of traits anyway nowadays.
We can look specifically at club head speed too.
I know.
That's something that we can do. That's the rabbit hole. We bring that up. It's good times. So yeah, bomb and gouge has been a thing that's kind of been more prevalent on tour. And again, that's been more prevalent at Torrey too. So a little harder to do here. There's a little bit more nuance in some of these holes, a little bit more dog leg, situations versus Torrey, where a lot of the holes are similar layouts in terms of kind of everything's right in front of you. So you can kind of bomb and gouge it a little bit, but yeah. There's, and again,
weather-wise too, it's been better, but there's still like a decent chance of rain this weekend is what I'm seeing so far. I don't know where you're at on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll look closer. I mean, I feel like Wednesday night probably.
I'm not a weatherman.
Yeah, and those guys, no offense to those guys, their job is probably very difficult considering they're not super duper accurate. Sometimes the forecast is overwhelming. Like it seemed inevitable ahead of time when you were looking at the Pebble forecast a couple days out, where it's like, oh, this is unavoidable for multiple days. So we'll see what ends up happening here. So yeah, you need the full bag, which is, again, I think brings, to your point, the top of the card, the top of the board into play. Around the green matters a ton here as well, because we talked about 56.7% greens in regulation rate over the last handful of years. You got to be able to scramble. The bunkering, they're impactful. Bunkering in terms of, fairway bunkers a little bit deeper, 50, 60 yards away, and then obviously greenside bunkers too. So all those things I think matter. So you need to be in your bag a little
bit. Which hole is that? There's
the bunker in the middle of the green.
Well, there's the one in the green, and then there's also there's that drivable par 4, and it's like, oh, here's one I can go after. And then you look at the bunkering around it, like, oh shit, do I want to? Like, do I have that? Do I have that shot in my bag? So yeah, it's shaping shots both ways, being able to, find your way to these big greens out of the Kikuyu rough, scrambling, sand saves around the green, and then obviously the putting on this POA, which is, we've seen this year after year. People miss short putts here all the time.
Yes.
They just, the putts will take a little bit of a, kind of a detour on the way to the hole. I mean, you're talking like 3-4 footers that just like, what? Like, I thought we had this, we get up to some of these bent grass and you're watching on Shot Tracker maybe because your guy isn't on TV. Like, oh yeah, he hit it to 8 feet. Like, that's good. We're calling that good on these screens right now.
Yeah.
Just, I think you got to be within like 1.5 feet before you start giving gimmies.
So some guys that have played well or played here before, same thing. I think, Torrey is a viable corollary course. Ron highlights 2 in his preview. 16 of the last 18 winners here have played at least 4 Genesis Invitational, Riviera Country Club events in the past. So it is a spot where course history, some experience does matter. And I think that makes some sense. And there's also the other thing with the like POA Kikuyu thing too. Like, it's also very common in Australia. We've seen some Australians play well here as well. And I think that's maybe something we can touch on here too. So I think there's maybe something to that, but yeah, we can dig in. You want to touch one and done real quick?
Yeah. And just off the bat, it is a big purse. These are going to move around. I don't know how much this is going to move around from year to year. I know from last year, we did move around, like the Waste Management was a signature event. That's why the field was different this year, because it was sandwiched in between 2. This is a big purse. These are going to be as big as majors. So basically, all these signature events you have to treat as the same size as a major purse, except the field is a little different as far as who you can pick from. So kind of we said maybe a little further down the board last week, you can play an ace. So me and Cal, that's what we go with the deck of cards analogy for most of our, like, you got to play, we're using a face card here.
Okay,
This might
that
be
makes
an
sense.
this is an ace. Like, you do got to play your aces because you can't take them with you. And then, yes, of course, a little shout out to our sponsor, Pool Genius. If you're sick of relying on luck for your PGA one and done, add a little more science to your process this year. Introducing their one and done products for golf. They give you custom pick advice based on your pool size, the tournaments available, and the past picks and who you have available. So there's data-driven pick grades for you, highlighting your best strategic options. Again, customized to your pool. Once you enter your information and get everything in there, they're giving away limited time free trials. There's a link in the description. You can go click on it, try it out for free for this tournament. Like, see how it goes, see how you like it. I'm a big fan of their products when it comes to the March Madness product, the NFL Survivor product. So they've done a really nice job. And again, it is a new product. They're looking for feedback, and they are very, very reactive to that. They will take feedback and run with it and change things and make things better right away. They want this to be the best product. So give it a try. The link is in the description. Like I said, give them some feedback. Reach out to us. Reach out to them. Check it out. And yeah, use an ace this week. Got to use a big name. There's plenty of them in the field. And speaking of the field, I think it's time we load up the rabbit hole for the week.
Yeah, let's do it. If you are not familiar, we're going to use our rabbit hole, our officially licensed PGA Tour data and tool to build a model for you this week. And, look at the stats that matter here. If you are looking to get a sense of, you can get a trial and watch us here. If you want to get premium access to everything that we're doing over at BetSports Golf, all the articles, all of our picks, the rabbit hole itself, Discord, all that stuff. We have a way for you to do it for cheap. Now, again, I will argue, and you can go ahead and shop it yourself. I'm obviously biased. You can pay full rate for what we got going on at BetSports Golf right now and absolutely get a deal. So, no offense. I don't really want to hear that you complain that because other people can get it for $5 that you want it for $5 too. We're not for you. I'm sorry. But we have a partner with Vivid Picks. Vivid Picks is a pick'em site, DFS pick'em site, similar to some others that you're probably familiar with out there. They actually have already posted round one plays for the Genesis. Absolutely love to see. You want to look at birdie or better for round one. You want to look at someone's round one score. You could take basically higher or lower in those markets, build a little parlay card of DFS picks, and make yourself some money. Now, all you need to do, if you are new to Vivid Picks, go to the App Store, download the app, use our promo code BetSportsGolf. You can click the links here. This is a free article. You can go over on the site. They will first deposit match you up to $250. By far the best in the industry. So if you like these games, take advantage of that deal. It is a fantastic deal. Deposit $250, you have $500 in your account instantly to play with. If you're just looking for a loophole, basically to get access to BetSports Golf for cheap, minimum $5 deposit and play. So you got to play. Put that $5 in there and put it on something right away, and you will get an email on how to access BetSports Golf for free for the rest of the season. Now, it's only available in about 28 states. If you are in one of the unfortunate 22, go ahead and DM us on BetSports Golf on Twitter, or Andy, myself, Ron Kloss, PGA Splits 101 directly, and we will help get you the best promo code available for you. This is an affiliate relationship. They help offset some of that cost. So again, I cannot get you a $5 deal. We obviously want to get better data in your hands, and I think the rabbit hole is the best that's out there, and we're really excited about that. So we're going to go ahead and build them all.
And the biggest thing while he's pulling up the rabbit hole is if you do this and you take advantage, you have to play. We have like 20 people that have signed up with our promo code, deposited money, sometimes decent money, not just the $5, and haven't played through. Like if you to get the promo code to sign up for BetSports Golf and get the $5, you got to play at least $5 over there. So take advantage of that, but make sure the 3 steps: use the promo code, deposit $5, play $5, you should get an email with a promo code to use over at betsportsgolf.com. And with that, let's build who we think will be the best course fit here up at Riviera Country Club golf course in beautiful somewhere in LA.
Pacific Palisades, I think.
Pacific Palisades. Right. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
Got a comment from Nick saying the guy I tail says he's against Hovland because of the coaching change. Is there room for that in the model construction? I don't think we're gonna have coaching change as a metric. But it's always those are my favorite things to look at, is when like Paul Tesori is on the bag this week for someone different,
caddy changes, or
we get caddy changes, coach changes, equipment changes. People love that shit. I love that shit. So what do you want to
This is interesting too. I want to show people too is you have access. You can go over into the rabbit hole and click on the tab. We'll show you here to view expert rankings. You want to get the model that Andy built, the model that Ron Kloss built, the model that I built. You can also get the model that Andy Lack built. If you're familiar with Andy and his Inside Golf podcast, you want to see what he did. You now have access to his model as well. And we're hoping, that we can add some other people here eventually down the road, that you think is a nice little added benefit for you too. And again, I think that's part of the beauty of this is it's like, hey, what are these other folks valuing in terms of stats that matter? It's not an answer key. It's not Andy's picks. But it's also an access to see, hey, what stats are they valuing? And I thought, looking at Andy's very different than how, I guess I'll say Lax. So looking at Lax model, I think very different and interesting to see how Andy and I differ, because we all were a little bit more like, hey, how do we keep it tight and minimal? And Lack has a ton of data. I think all of it's super relevant. So I think that's another beauty in this model building process is like, hey, there are multiple ways, I believe 6, to skin a cat, and they get a sense instantly that multiple people who do this all the time can do it in very, very different ways.
Yeah, I purposely did not look at Andy Lack's model yet, because I took in some of his content yesterday, and I know generally what some of his ideas for the course, but I wanted to be blank slate when I put mine together this morning.
Yeah,
so I will look at his after the show up this afternoon, because Christ, it's a course he plays. It's one of his home courses, so I obviously have to take his input with a bunch of value this week.
Yeah, there's an element to his model that I absolutely love, that I will excited to share when we get there. So if you're seeing this for the first time, you can see obviously we are displaying the field here at the Genesis. You can mess around with seasons if you just want to capture 2024 season to date. It's going to get you a pretty small sample. There are multiple views. You can mess around with the time frame in conjunction with the rounds played. You want to look at course history, you can go ahead and select. We talked about specifically Torrey Pines, or you want to see what's going on here at Riv. You can go into this course tab and change stuff as well. Region specific, how do guys play in California? Specific course types. These are all unique things to the rabbit hole. Data you will not find anywhere else. This filter by condition tab can be overwhelming, but there are lots of different ways to slice and dice this data to help you get a better sense of who you need to hone in on, maybe do a little bit more research in, maybe dig a little bit further as well. So if you are listening to the podcast, we appreciate it. Subscribe, 5-star review. Also, the YouTube show on our BetSports YouTube channel is also a great way to tail along for this show, because Andy and I like to build a model. So we like to build and start with an anchor statistic, something in the strokes gained category, total, tee to green, approach, ball striking. Where do you want to go?
Probably ball striking or tee to green again is a bit of an anchor.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need as much of an anchor this week, because a lot of times when I say anchor, I'm using a high, 10,000 foot view stat, like total strokes gained, because when we start building this model out and we get a little more granular, we don't want somebody who's just really good at a small part of their game to be too high.
Yeah.
That is what we're getting after. But at the same time, we still want guys who are the best golfers in the world to not fall too far because we got too cute with it. So, I've used total, I've used tee to green, I've used ball striking. I think any of those are fine. I think it's going to be a little less important this week because of just how strong this field is, and basically everybody in the field part near obviously with the addition of some of the lower end guys that got in here and there, and honestly, I hate to say it, but Tiger is going to be pretty close to the top of a lot of those. So I mean, tee to green is fine.
Yeah. Okay. So let's what do we say? We go last 9 months because we get a bigger sample on some of these guys that didn't play a bunch of swing season events.
Yeah. And a better way to explain this is just form. Like we're just putting in overall form. So you want to do a bigger
baseline
sample size.
form.
You don't want to be, this is where I go, sometimes I'll take this out to a year. Just say, like, how have you played since the last time we were here?
Yeah.
Give me 100 rounds on some of these guys. And even with 9 months, when even in 9 months, going through the swing season where a lot of guys are off,
sure,
or a lot of guys are playing some European events rather, I mean, you're still getting like 40, 50 rounds on a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I see most. I mean, Rory at 43 is like Cantley at 45. Most of these guys are getting to 50 rounds or so. This is captured here. You can see also these are number of rounds, shot link measured rounds in parentheses. So obviously you have a handful occasionally where we don't have shot link data. But yeah, this is good. I think this makes sense. Again, baseline skill sets before we start to get, overly fitting to specific stats. We want to capture, hey, Scotty Scheffler, tee to green is the best in the world. That's going to matter here. We should probably capture that as a pretty strong baseline tenet of what we're looking to do here. All you need to do to add this to your model building process, because we're going to do this here at the end. Click on the plus. You can make a little note if you'd like. I'm not going to do that. Well, I'll do it here for the first one just so people can see. So we'll go last 50, last 9 months, tee to green. Again, this is just for you on your end. All right, so we got that. Within that though, yeah, let's slice and dice. We could do lots of different things here. And again, I think we both like to do some things that are a little bit unique and different than what we did as well. But let's just start off the tee, because we'll just go front to back. We got tee to green, but let's go into the off the tee section here. We talked about driving distance mattering, accuracy. Again, it matters, but it's kind of a fool's errand because no one's necessarily like, do you really want a guy that is just trying to find fairways? He's hanging so far back, to find the fairway that he's, probably in a disadvantageous spot for a second shot at times.
It may not be prescriptive here or predictive, just because, like you said, you could be finding the guys who have the best accuracy off the tee, and they may not be putting together a game plan to highlight that part of their game, where they might be just hauling off a little more instead of clubbing down. They, are putting the one in their hands a little more. So it might not be a great one to use here. Whereas, total driving distance, club head speed, carry distance is interesting. Mm-hmm. I will say I put that in my model in case you didn't want to double dip, but I put that in because the rollout here is less than, I guess
especially if it's wet.
If you want to get agronomy wise, like it is a fairway that's not going to allow as much rollout. So I put carry distance. It's going to be pretty similar. Look at the carry distance column and look at the driving distance column. If you're following along on YouTube, you can see it's not terribly far off. But you have some guys, like Gary Woodland, who his driving distance is 23rd compared to carry distance is 6th. Be interesting to break down some of those guys who have a big discrepancy in the two, and
big role.
Understand what they're doing differently with their drives.
Yeah, with the spin, Woodland's a great example. Whereas 22, 22nd in this field in driving distance, but in terms of carry, he is 6th. Again, I just put on his small filter 20 rounds, so I'm losing some of the field here, but not many of them. But yeah, I think it is an interesting thing because, again, like you talked about, if there's weather too, right? We end up being in a spot where
wet Kikuya.
Yeah, we're not getting the rollout.
Shit ain't rolling.
No. We're going to also, again, I don't know if you think there's any value to it, you can go down to miscellaneous metrics and just circumvent the whole thing and do club head speed.
Yeah.
Another thing that would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Scary.
It's same. Adam Scott's up there.
Cam Young, Adam Scott. Adam Scott is a guy, not only you've mentioned this already, but he's a guy who's had good course history here, and he's Australian.
Mm-hmm. So again, another way, multiple ways to skin the cat. That's also available for you.
You're gonna get PETA after us.
Sorry, cats. Sorry. Now,
What else?
So let's do carry. I'm going to add carry because I liked it.
Okay.
I like it. Yeah, I didn't do it. And then again, I think driver stuff, I want a pretty big sample. So we'll go carry. We're here capturing last 50 rounds, last 9 months. I think that's a good way to start. Again, a little unique. So good drives is interesting too, right? So again, if not familiar with the stat, it is number of fairways hit plus the number of greens and reg when the drive was not in the fairway. We know it's still low, right? So like it matters and it's important this week, but like it's still really hard to do. So it is a challenge. It's almost like the driving accuracy piece. So I would not bemoan anyone for putting that into their model, but I think it's not necessarily telling the story by itself that I think you want it to this week. So I think for the sake of the show, I think we'll just do carry distance from an off the tee standpoint. All right.
Approach.
See, do you want to do anything in approach?
So I want to hear your thesis on greens and regulation percentage. And anybody who maybe doesn't understand the stats as much is like, did your ball land on the green off the tee on a par 3? Did your second shot land on the green, on a par 4 or better? Hey, if you drive that par 4, that's also a green in regulation. And then same thing with a par 5. Did your second or third shot land on the green? As Ryan pointed out, we have huge greens here, which should make it easy. But the difficulty of the second shots here, the difficulty of some of these tee shots on the par 3s leads us to have a very low greens and regulation percentage compared to other courses, other tournaments. So what's your thesis on that as far as using some of these stats? What do you think is the most important and the most predictive looking at how some of these golfers have played over the past, what do we have at 9 months?
Yeah, it's challenging because if you wanted to get into a sample where, you look at a couple of courses and you want to say, hey, how about greens and reg at Riv, greens and reg at Riv and Torrey? Then you're getting into like
so small of a sample.
So small and noisy. You got to go back multiple years. Like it starts to get really challenging. I don't think it's going to give you this actual story that you're trying to tell with what the model is doing. So,
and I think if you did want to do something like that, you would want to just go, overall play at, let's say comp courses, or even just here, just go 5 years of playing the Genesis, or five years of Genesis, Torrey, and Augusta, maybe throwing in there if you want to do something like that. So, but once you get into a smaller sample like that, I hate going more granular. When I do that, I tend to go towards like total strokes gained.
Yeah, that's when you're going to get into the stuff we're talking about at the top with the anchor stat, where you're kind of going to be overweighting or underweighting someone because the sample is so small. And again, like a 20 round sample over the course of 5 years is just a very noisy data set to get yourself into. And again, you have the ability to look at it. Something that you could do here. You can look at it.
I have fun looking at it. I just struggle putting it in one of these models I build.
Yeah. Some of these too, like again, when you go for the green, what's your proximity? Like, are you, you're awarded for being a little bit aggressive, and when that happens, how does that work for you? Or can you score in those situations when you're going for the green in terms of birdie percentage? Going for the green hit rate. When you're aggressive, does it work for you? I think that is something that can be pretty telling. So these are not my favorite stats. I probably would stay in approach, but if you have a strong take for a greens and reg stat, I'm comfortable putting it in.
No, I mean, overall proximity, greens and regulation, or just straight up approach. One of the first three. Yeah. Because straight up approach covers everything. Greens and reg is obviously, if you have someone who is above average at that, maybe that's something they can bring here. And then proximity, just because we need guys that are keeping it close, man. These putting surfaces can be tricky and difficult.
Let's capture this twice. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do strokes gained approach. Again, double counting in a way because we already have tee to green. That's okay. If we're going to double count anything, double count approach.
Yeah.
And then you can go into specifically fairway or rough approach in terms of capturing the penalty that a golfer experiences based off of being in the rough.
You do rough greens and reg or rough proximity, one of those two?
Yeah, I think one of those two. You can get into, obviously we have a massive allotment of approach shots from 150 plus here. So you can get into that as well. Again, another thing where, you're honing in on a specific range and you're honing in on rough versus approach. So be careful there. and overweighing any of those. But I think capturing both of these things, I think, matter because we know the guys are going to be playing from the rough here. It just is, it's inevitable, regardless of how accurate or strong they are off the tee. So let's look at rough greens and reg percentage. We'll pop it in here.
Oh, Ludwig.
Daddy.
Coronation time, huh?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I think
I'm going to have some Ludwig, top 10 or something.
Flies in the face of the 16 out of 18 winners having some past experience here. But he said that about Torrey too, and he sure put himself in the mix there. And continues to. He already won on some places he's never played before. So
that's half the reasoning. It's like, well, he went to San Diego and kind of looked good on these, agronomy wise, similar. So, all right. So we got a couple of approach. What about around the greens, scrambling, sandies? We talked about that being important. You can go a few different ways here. I'm going to leave this one up to you.
Yes, this is sandies. I'm not going to do. I just don't almost ever. And if you're not doing it here, you're not doing it at Pebble, you're probably not doing it at all. Again, another thing to tiebreaker. I mean, I don't watch Scotty Scheffler and be like, this guy struggles from the sands, but he's 53rd here in a pretty large sample, right? So like, you want to say, hey, this guy is really strong from the sands. I think that's a telling story as well. So these are your guys at the top. You're looking at the last 50 rounds: Todd, Harmon, Grayson Murray, Wyndham Clark, Sungjae Im, Ricky Denny, Nick Taylor, guys that have struggled: Finau, Woodland, Kevin Yu, Taylor Moore, Cam Young, Corey Connors. So like, not adding it. How about we do some scrambling on scoring here? If you look last year, what the John Rahm won, not back here to defend. If we're looking at like what's actually happened here over the last couple of years, but like making the cut has been pretty hard. Scoring overall, I would consider this it's around 10 to 12 over the last handful of years in like actual scoring conditions. You can make the case for like, how about we do scrambling in difficult scoring conditions or something like that that's capturing a little bit more of maybe a little bit overfitting and granular, but I think it's something maybe worth taking a look at.
Well, especially when you do something like that and we're going to add a condition to the filter, I think you start by making the sample size bigger, by making let's look at like 2 years worth of data.
So
the fun part about this is we can look at different samples.
Yeah, the cut line was +2 last year. So like yes, Rahm won at a decent sized number, right? Rahm won at 17, but like Day, Woodland, Svensson, 8 strokes back, still in the top 10. So it was kind of like some guys separated themselves to the top, but you were still 5 under. Was still top 20. So, in terms of what we have on the tour these days, I would consider this, difficult, more difficult than normal scoring conditions. So yeah, let's back out. We'll go into the conditions here. Let's say difficult scoring conditions.
Scroll down a second.
Yeah.
So at the bottom there, we got rough, we got architect designer, we've got greens and regulation accuracy. I'm not saying we should do this right now, but that's something interesting too to look at this week. If you want to grab a big sample size of every round people have played over the last few years where it was difficult relative to all rounds played for the golfers on the course to find the greens in regulation, you could do that.
Yep.
So you could again, I don't know how many things I would click at once because your sample size is going to get very small, but you can look at every single round over the past few years that were tough to find the greens on and look at who played well. Every single round where the fairway accuracy was very difficult for them to find, and just kind of look at that. And that's what I like to do is, once we start realizing like what we're dealing with, how this compares to other courses, other tournaments, I like to click on those and at least look like who's looked good on these sort of things for the past few years and then start digging in. But no, I'm fine because I think difficult scoring conditions probably covers those. It's a little more granular.
It's a really good point though. And this is the ability to do this is, I think, what makes the rabbit hole unique, and up to you if you want to put that in a model, or if you, like Andy said, you just want to look at it. And I think there's something to be said with doing either. Same thing, like, hey, look, we just talked about, if you were to chop up rough surface into Kikuya, you're probably getting a really small sample. May as well look at it, right? Like, how hard is it we know you got to scramble these greens. Who scrambles well from Kikuya? I mean, that's might as well look at it. I think those are, you want to just, hey, let's do Poa and Kikuya. You're going to capture that sample from Tori.
Yeah, that's going to be 2 courses.
Yeah, but like, hey, it's gonna give you something. Again, you can get into all these things here. So yeah, we'll do difficult scoring conditions here.
And I think that's something we haven't done much. Is you hit apply. I kind of want to point that out. Go ahead and apply that so I can see past this. If you want, and which, we got to go bigger sample. Let's go 5 years. Let's get weird. There we go. There's some.
We go 3 years. Yeah, we're getting a good sample.
If you know which courses you want to look at, you can just go to courses right on the top and just say, I want these 5 courses. I want, give me Augusta, give me Torrey, give me, Genesis, give me Riviera here. And you can choose those and say, only show me rounds at those 2 if you want. Because we've done it a couple different ways where we said basically, like, if you do this, you're only going to get Torrey and Riviera rounds. And you can do it the easy way too.
You can just click on it. So, all right, let's see. Strokes gained around the green in difficult scoring conditions. Tommy at the top, Tommy Ladd, Chris Kirk, Seabez,
winner on tour this year.
Yeah, competitive on some other spots too.
Benny very, very good year. Justin,
very good.
Justin coming around. His prices are falling back into where they once were.
7 straight T12 or better will do that to you. He can scramble his face off for sure. So, and also sand saves in difficult. Again, where you can see here, this little red dot tells you have a condition on, and it's also listed here. Just to turn it off, you can just X out of it. Make sure you do that when you start to go to other spots, because otherwise you're going to be filtering everything by this condition. So make sure you don't do that. But scrambling percentage in this scenario, Kevin Yu, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Kevin Yu's 2 rounds. So you can go ahead into this minimum rounds and filter something out if you wanted. Just put 12 rounds, kick some of those guys out, reshuffles the ranking. Because again, you're going to have that. So this is again part of the difficulty where Tom Kim is only 12 rounds and Fitzpatrick's giving you 46. So that's definitely a different scenario. But yeah, this is kind of what I think Nick in the chat was talking about is look how strong Vic was from a scrambling standpoint over the sample, scrambling from the rough. It was top 10 numbers all over the board here. Fired Joe Mayo, his short game coach, and it's kind of gone off the rails again. So interested to see what happens there with Vic and if he can get some of the mojo back that was so crucial in making him who he was there last year. So, what do we want to do? Around the green in general?
Yeah, just to keep it simple on here. Go around the green. We're already
difficult. Make a note. All right. We'll chop this and cut that out. So we will go back. What else do we want to do? We can do anything scoring-wise.
Yeah, par 5 scoring maybe. You
Okay.
can really do maybe par 5 efficiency or par 5 birds are better. But other than that, I think we're pretty close.
Okay. What about? I kind of want to capture bogey avoidance. This is a hard scoring conditions. You can't be making big numbers. Any interest? There's that popped in. Was that part of your model or anything you thought of?
No, I did do some par 5 scoring in mine.
Okay.
So maybe go different. We can go bogey avoidance because there's a ton of, oh shit, like with your tee shot, I need par here. Like yeah. I'm fighting for par at this point.
Look at this king right here across the board, Andy. I mean,
yeah,
we already got 50 rounds too. We're not even messing with small samples anymore. All right, bogey avoidance. Again, it's in people's heads because we saw the small missed putts from Luda at Torrey, but that does not back itself out in terms of long term on this guy's sample size already. So, all right, again, you can put as many as conditions, filters, and stats as you would like, or you'd like to keep it tight here for the show for the sake of time. But let's run this bad boy. We'll hit this create mixed condition model button. It'll give us defaults here to the weights. You can see here, this is the description box that I clicked in and put some notes here, just again, for your sake. You can also hover over this icon and it'll actually tell you what your applied filters were as well. In case you build a lot and you're like, hey, what is this? I got 6 things that say strokes gained tee to green. Some of them were 12 rounds, 16 rounds, 24 rounds, 100 rounds. You can go ahead and do that as you wish. This will be Riv Betting Show. We'll give it a name. We'll make this an expert model if people want to go in and take a look at what we did here on the show. And you give it weights. Default's obviously to make it nice and even for you, but we will mess around with this. What do we say here? We'll 25 with our anchor. Then we want to do. What else do we value the most here?
Probably approach. Well, I mean, you're counting it over a bigger sample with the anchor, so maybe 20 on approach.
Okay.
And then past that, I mean, it is probably pretty even. I mean, if anything past that, it would be the around the green stuff. So important here.
You're at third time with greens and rag in the rough.
Yeah.
So we're at 40, 60, 70. We'll just go 15 each. Let's go 15 each. Okay with that. Again, you can do whatever you like with this. Part of this is for the sake of time and for the sake of the show, but I think that this is probably a good start. You can see you can save as many of these bad boys as you like. Rerun them, change them, run some baseline models on some stuff. You can no limit to the number of things that you can do here. Also important, I'll scroll back to show you real quick. You can also click this little download to CSV button. Unique feature, can't find anywhere else. You can go ahead and make a bunch of these, weigh them however you like, and get some rolling form and all sorts of different stuff. So again, the unique feature here to download into a CSV. I think it's pretty
cool. I know people that build 3 or 4 different models, then put them all in a spreadsheet and look at them next to each other, just as far as how they rank in all of them. So, all right, number 1 in our model this week, no surprise, Scotty Scheffler, followed by Rory, Patrick Cantlay, Xander, Benny On. Look at you. Benny On, sneaky good year, just needs to finish. Chris Kirk, like we said, winner already. Lucas Glover, a guy I love, even though he, pulled out of a tournament on me. Russell Henley, standard for us. And then Ludwig is 9th. Adam Scott, already mentioned, is 10th in the model. Victor 11th. Eric Cole, followed by Smalley Ryder and JT the Postman. Not a bad top 15. A few surprises. Obviously, the cheap down the board guys being, Glover, Henley, even Eric Cole, who is very good, but in this field, he's going to be, a little further down the board, and obviously Benny On and Chris Kirk as well.
Yes, some of these guys that I think are the outliers that you're talking about, and Lucas Glover again. We're still in a sample where we're getting them, absolutely white hot. Yeah, we didn't do putting. We're getting the white hot Lucas Glover of the tail end of last season. Some of the guys that are popping that are surprising, when you think of, I guess Russell Henley, even Chris Kirk, Eric Cole, Smalley, Sam Ryder, Poston, these guys that are up here higher are some of the better long-term approach guys. And because we were capturing approach in 3 separate buckets here, tee to green, approach, and rough greens and reg, we are somewhat rewarding them for that strength in their game. So Benny N getting a massive bump here in the top 5, but again, tops in carry distance, he's fantastic around the green as well. He's top 10 there as well. Approach can be a little bit wayward at times. It was one of my favorite bets, non-Scotty bets last week at the Waste Management, and it did not come together for Ben N, but that, maybe an interesting guy to explore this week in a spot where I could see it making a ton of sense. So yeah, I mean, look, getting either a couple of the best guys in the world and then a couple of the other guys that are maybe the next tier that are kind of the California kids, the Disgusting Brothers, Cantlay and Xander. Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. I feel pretty good about the model when it looks like that at the top. So yeah, it's pretty good. Have you made any bets?
Not yet, but I have guys circled. I'm just price shopping at this point. It's still Tuesday for Andy. I'm always a full day behind you. Probably going to go find the best number on JT. I think he's still a little depressed in the market because of, what we had. And if it's going to be close to 20, how he's playing, I can play him here. I don't even feel bad. So not super excited ever to be, betting that guy because I had so many struggles with him. But just based on the prices, I don't think I can quite get there at Scotty, even in a shorter field. It's a small number again. And we saw it. There's just little hiccups that are going to be like, hey, this guy's going to finish top 5, but do you really want to bet him 6-1 to win at this point? So JT's on the board for me. Maybe Wyndham Clark, who I was wrong about a couple weeks ago. Again, if he's just going to he has like the full Spieth magic beans sometimes. It's like shit, everything. Shit's just going to work out perfectly for you all the time. Yep. And he's a little further down the board. I mean, guy won a major. He's going to be like 50-1. Yeah, it's a tough field, but I'm probably close on that one as well. So, and maybe
U.S. Open field was pretty tough.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I feel like it was not far from here either. And these fairways aren't. Oh, what is the word for it? I almost said beveled. Camber. Is camber the word they were using at LACC? You know how there was there's a camber to it.
Yeah,
not the same.
A lot of Barrancas too.
We had Barrancas and cambers. It's not the same, but these do have some tilt to them. These do have some positional golf that you need to play, obviously. So Wyndham Clark. So those are my big 3. And you kind of have to take long shots because of it being 2024. And, it's like somebody down the board, I guess, is just bound to at least be in it. I'm trying to look who mine would be. Maybe Schenk. Ugh, I don't want to do that.
No, Schenk hits it a mile. I mean, that helps.
Maybe Denny. What's Denny McCarthy's price? He's got to be 100. 120, 125 and McCarthy. Maybe that's a play for me.
Yeah, there's some bigger numbers there. Yeah, it's interesting to see Sanjay so far down comparatively, where he's not typically, I feel like he's typically in like where the Wyndham Clark, Cam Young pricing is. Sanjay's far down there. He's not been playing particularly great. I started with JT as well. Again, I think we just got to turn the page. We played really good golf, tried to get into the playoff last year. That kind of turned the page. The golf was really good at the Ryder Cup, and it's just continued. As you said, like he's bookended T12s here over his last 7 events. The middle of that is like a bunch of top 5s. So he's been really close. What matters here is, he can hit it far. The club head speed's good for, even though he's like 155 soaking wet. The approach game is really good. He can scramble his face off. And I think he has multiple top 10s here in the past and has contended here. Even last year, not playing good golf, he had a T20 here. So like he's comfortable here and can navigate this place. 1650 on Chris is what I'm seeing as the best number probably for you. Basically 16s across the board domestically. Caesars, as they typically do, maybe a little shorter there at 14. So
maybe I need to get a little quicker on the draw. I think you could add a better price earlier. So
yeah. Boo. Yeah, I think there were 18s even yesterday in the afternoon. So I also just can't avoid it, dude. I mean, I know he's never been here before, but Ludai at 22, I don't know. I took it. Like he's obviously, I feel better about a positional bet. I'll make that as well. But 22 for this kid who just, I don't know, just shows up and plays really good every single week. First time, it doesn't really matter to me. And you look at the model that we ran, rough greens and reg top, carry distance top 5, strokes gained tee to green. He was 11th. Bogey avoidance 4th. The approach stuff, capturing the last 50 rounds, I think doesn't serve him well because when you look at actually smaller samples after maybe a little bit of a weak start approach wise, it's been really good. So it's a really short number for this kid, but I just think we're kind of there already. And if you start to think of where is he going to be in the next 2 to 3 years, it's kind of like, hey, we got Scotty at 20 for a while. That's kind of going
away. It's a tax. Like I'm going to pay it. It's just Cal has these too, where it's like, I got to pay my cam tax. So I'll pay my tax.
And my only down the board play is not even really down the board. Now, there are some longer numbers, and I understand why there are longer numbers. I understand why people don't like this play at all, because you can find some. I mean, I took a 45. It's a bad number. There were 55s out there. I played Will Zalatoris, who played pretty well.
That used to be a tax.
It used to be a tax. And was a tax year last year, and looked at last year's card. He was on the board, but like T13 last time out at Farmers. We know there's Farmers corollaries. Farmers has been a place. Torrey has been good to him in the past. Again, 4th here last year at the Genesis. Distance is strong. There's something maybe to be said for his putting on these POA greens. He is a California kid. Does have the bigger broomstick, but again, gained throughout the bag in both of his last 2 starts at the Amex and Farmers. And again, we were paying, it's built into the number currently, right? Whatever your concerns are with his health or his form or the amount of golf he's played as of late, this is a guy we would be paying, 20, 22. So you get 55. That's built in, I think, at this point. So I think there are even some bigger numbers. I think I saw in the chat this morning in Discord, bookmakers like 75 or had a 75 this morning. So, that's a play for me for sure.
It's still 73. God, I might tell you on that. I think I'm in on that. I think we have the same card. Jesus.
All right, and here's the thing, Andy. I want to touch on this. I looked at Lack's model. Lack gave weight to 3 courses. He gave weight to Augusta. He gave weight to Torrey on top of capturing Riv data. He also gave weight to one of my outside of Wyndham last year at 120. My best golf betting experience of my life was Southern Hills in the PGA Championship, because I had both JT and Zal, and they went to a 3-hole playoff, and I had already won. It was a fantastic
Who wins?
20
Who cares?
minutes. Who wins? Who cares? It's a great place to be. And even seeing that Lack is looking at Southern Hills as a thought this week, felt really good about having Zal.
All right,
and I looked after the fact, so it was confirmation bias.
I'll take it. Yeah. I
73
love the data if
great.
it agrees with me.
Yep. So confirmation bias, I'm okay with admitting that that's the case. And thank you, Mr. Lack, for helping secure that for me. But those are my 3. And I think I'm done because I'll go heavy with top 10 on Scotty and stuff like that here. So yeah.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Yeah. For me, same card, except I'm throwing in some Wyndham Clark. But I will tell you on Mr. Zalatoris, I'll take some Wyndham Clark, some JT, and Luda. And we'll call it a day. If you have anything, obviously leave it in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter. If you want to get access, build your own models, betsportsgolf.com. There's an article right on there that guides you step-by-step through how to get the Vivid deal. If you're not in a Vivid state, like we said, DM us. We'll help you out. We'll get you a discount. I'd hate to see you play full price for the first go-around. When you renew, you're paying full price, so buddy. Bub. So
and get in early, because I don't know, maybe pricing is going up soon.
Yeah, I might grandfather your ass in, but pricing will go up eventually. So
yeah.
All right. Until next week, good luck. Have fun, bet responsibly, and see ya.